Today, on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat, L&H Boats takes on building a completely customized 33 Express.
We started building a custom build for Alan Jackson. Mr. Jackson has owned quite a few boats and is an avid boater and enthusiast.
Two Rivers Boatworks brings a tricked-out 39 Deep Impact back to life.
I can't wait to push those throttles forward and see what this boat does.
And George Labonte joins Dreamboat owner Bart Knowles aboard his fully restored 1972 20-foot Aquasport.
When he finished this project, it really looks like that this boat is going to suit his current needs for he and his family on the water.
All coming up on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us as we follow one-off builds to all-out restorations in Stuart, Florida's Dreamboat District, home to some of the best custom boat builders in the world. From modest to over-the-top, industry experts from the district's premier facilities show how it's done. Fiberglass repair, custom paintwork, engine rigging, electronics installations, and more. And boating editor George Labonte shares the stories of boaters who have already turned their dreams into reality. This is Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat.
Well, today's project is kind of a special project. We started building a custom build for Alan Jackson. Mr. Jackson has owned quite a few boats and is an avid boater and enthusiast. He fishes all around. I think he particularly likes Florida and the Bahamas area. So they contacted us a while ago about building a custom 33, one of our 33 hulls, only with a custom deck layout on it. He's owned an older 30-foot Prowler boat that they're very fond of. He has a lot of fond memories of it. So what we're trying to do is copy that boat, only in a larger format. Our 33 obviously is a little larger boat, so make it a better version of the old boat. New engines, a few other bells and whistles to make it a special boat for him, but something that's very similar to the old Prowler for him. That and the drawings we did is the basis for the start of the boat. Well, early on in the construction, the hull's completed in the mold, and that's a molded part. It's fairly simple for us to make. Again, we've made quite a few of them, so that's the first step in building this project. A lot of the project from there is custom built, and by that I refer to it's not going to come out of a pre-existing mold. A lot of it's done with fiberglass fabrication. We started with a forward deck, and then we proceed down the side of the boat and put the gunnels together, and we template them, we put them in place, we adjust them to the proper shape and form using glass and Divinycell, and then the final key to the puzzle there is glassing it in place. We tried to maximize the size of the gunnels, which is what the Jackson people wanted, but we also kept in mind that we have to get this engine hatch to open and close. So those two items work together to create the width and the size of the gunnels. One of the things on this boat was we didn't need to change the cockpit of the boat from our normal L&H 33 walk-around. So one of the things that we got a little bit of a benefit from was we could take a piece out of the deck mold, the cockpit area out of the deck mold, and utilize that rather than building it all one-off out of fiberglass and custom fabrication. The other piece that we could use was the covering board that we use on our normal walk-around. That piece fits as well. So we could fit that U-shaped piece back there and utilize that. It did take a little bit of trimming and adjustment. We found as the age of the boat, the molds get a little older, some things don't fit together 100%. It's pretty normal. So everything doesn't just snap together and get bolted down. Every once in a while you got to take a saw to something and cut it and adjust it. So that's just par for the course. Part of the problems that we faced in building this particular design and keeping it looking the way they wanted to look was making sure that we could get enough room over the top of the engines to produce the floor at a level that was sufficient and adequate for the design they wanted to do. Because of that, we had to make separate boxes over the top of the engines to accommodate for the height of the engines, and then lower the area down in between where you would be walking. So during the process of building it and constructing it, we had small modifications came along. We put it together a few times, We tried to make our tolerances as tight as we could so we could widen the walk space between these, which is basically down the middle of the bridge area, widen that area out to make it a very large area, and try to make it look as though it's hidden in the design, that you don't really notice that there's 2 engine boxes. So when you look at the finish of this particular area, you have 2 long lounges, and then it looks like you have 2 steps that maybe assist you to get up on the lounge as well. In addition to doing that, they're also hiding the engines, and they're hiding the space above the engines and covering that. So there's always a little bit of a reason why some things are done. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. The object of doing it is to make it look as pleasant as possible and as custom as possible, and not something that's very obvious why it's done that way. So we think we did a pretty nice job with that.
When we come back, the experts at Two Rivers Boatworks restore and customize a 39-foot deep impact. This segment brought to you by Armstrong. Experience the Armstrong advantage.
Do you have the Armstrong advantage? In its most basic form, an Armstrong outboard bracket improves the efficiency of your outboard motor. This equates to a faster time to plane and higher top speeds. The list of advantages continue with improved maneuverability, added space, and a quieter ride. Adding a swim platform accompanied by an Armstrong boarding ladder will certainly add to your day out on the water. Isn't it time for you to gain the Armstrong advantage?
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman, Project Dreamboat. Join us as the experts at Two Rivers Boatworks give a 39-foot deep impact a makeover, from fresh power to custom paint.
So over at Two Rivers Boatworks, we got a really exciting boat in. It's a Deep Impact 39 that had some stuff stolen off of it. It had 4 motors stolen off this boat. It had some really expensive instruments taken, and the boat was vandalized, obviously, as the guys were ripping stuff out of it. So we've repowdered, we've put 400 racings on. I mean, think about it, this boat has 1,600 horsepower on the back of it. I've heard it should be good for about 86 miles an hour. We've spent some time with the captain, and we've done a really nice layout on the dash. This boat, I figured with the curves and all the interesting shapes in the dash, it would be really nice to have a nice paint. And this color on this Deep Impact is quite an interesting color. And it's been a real challenge to actually match the color. So one of the things we do at Two Rivers Boatworks when we're trying to match a color or decide on a color for a customer is we spray up speed shapes. And what these speed shapes allow is for us to see how the light moves around, what it does in a recess. So it gives us a very good idea of what the paint's going to look like. But we ended up probably going to go with this color. It matches the closest we can get it to the hull. It should be awesome once we lay the really cool new instruments in there, some really nice switch ideas that I have, and I look forward to seeing the dash completed.
All right, so here at Two Rivers, we've been given a custom paint job on the dash of a console. It is a 39-foot Deep Impact. It's a super cool speedboat. We're going to be spraying it with a base coat clear coat. Color is laser blue. It's a really nice metallic. It's actually a custom match to the hull. So once we bag the entire 39 Deep Impact off and we're ready to shoot primer, we'll spray it with the gray 545. So from there, we come in the next day, we sand all the primer up real good with 320. We'll follow behind that with an all prep product, which is what they recommend for top coats. After that, you tack it off, and then you're pretty much ready to mix your paint and lay down some beautiful stuff. So spraying the front of the console on the Deep Impact, it's not going to take a lot of paint, and the area is real tight. To move around with the pressure pot, it just doesn't make sense economically. So this time we're going to use the DeVilbiss starter kit. It comes with a jam gun. They're both HVLP top loader guns. We're going to use the smaller jam gun. You flip it upside down when you get the paint in the cup and you start shooting the air out. It lets all the air out, sucks the bag up till it's just paint. So when we get up in there and start shooting, we can flip the gun over any way we want. In detailed console shoots like this, you only have a foot of space and you got a lot of contour curves. You really got to flip the gun, I mean totally upside down, get down low with a light. You even have someone hold the hose right next to you so your hose doesn't hit the paint, let alone the gun. So that's pretty much why we decided to use this gun for the shoot. So after we sprayed the console, the 3 coats covered really well. We took a flashlight, went over everything in detail, make sure it was just perfect how we wanted it. We went ahead and mixed up some clear, went up there, we did a nice tack coat on everything, you know, let it sit 5 to 10 minutes. Came back, did 2 medium coats after that. The thing flowed out really nicely, had a lot of depth to it, so we called it good there, and mwah, she's beautiful.
The Deep Impact has just come out of paint. Saw it this morning for the first time in the sun. That dashboard looks incredible. We're now going to get Dan to finish up the rigging. We're getting the glass guys in. They're going to come and put the windshield and the moonroof in, and CDEC's going to come and put the floor down. And then it's a matter of just buttoning up a few loose ends, and I can't wait to push those throttles forward and see what this boat does.
When we return, FS Boating editor George Labonte joins Dreamboat owner Bart Knowles aboard his 1972 20-foot Aquasport in this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment.
This segment brought to you by Fiberglass Coatings, the largest selection of fiberglass materials in the United States.
FGCI is a leading supplier of composite materials, family-owned for over 60 years and headquartered right here in Florida. We have the materials and technical expertise to service manufacturers, repair professionals, and DIYers alike. Our gel coat color matching is a favorite of seasoned professionals and weekend warriors. Access our online store at fgci.com, call to speak with a product specialist, or visit our stores in Fort Lauderdale or St. Petersburg. FGCI is your partner on boat projects big and small.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us for this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment with Florida Sportsman Boating editor George Labonte as we feature anglers who have already launched their dream. Florida Sportsman began these features 30 years ago, and the dreams just keep getting better.
Last week, we met up with Jeff Knowles in Boca Grande, Florida, and had a look at his 1972 classic 20-foot Seacraft. While we were there, we also joined Jeff's brother Bart, who helped him complete his project, and got a chance to spend part of the day aboard Bart's 19-foot-6 Aquasport, also built in 1972.
So I had the same boat in essence about 20-25 years earlier. Always liked the boat. It was very versatile, very capable little boat. So I had some good experiences with that and ended up seeing one on Craigslist. It was a little bit rougher than what I thought, and so pretty immediately I had pretty much made a decision that I wasn't going to buy the boat. And then I got looking around and reflecting back to that particular boat and how well it ran.
After having a chance to reconsider and think about all the memories he had in his youth using a boat just like this one, he changed his mind essentially, and he was hoping this project was going to be a simple one.
Stripping the boat down, and one thing leads to another, and you realize how bad the wiring was, throughout the boat. So then I pulled all the wiring out. Well, then I realized that there was a, the cap had a lot of old holes in it from screws, and so I took the cap off of it. Thought, well, we'll eventually patch that up, and it just evolved.
As is often the case when you take on a restoration like this, one job leads to another and another and another, and pretty soon you're doing a bunch of work that you never planned on in the beginning. Bart became overwhelmed a little bit and decided he would consult his brother and ask him his opinion. What would he do?
Of course, then he's selling me on it. He's saying, Bart, oh yeah, you can do this. We'll tear this thing apart. We'll do this, we'll do that to it. We collectively said, okay, one weekend, let's get together and maybe we'll just cut the wood out of the transom. And we'll just replace the wood inside it. We're not gonna cut into the skin or any of that. And again, it just continued to evolve. We cut the wood out, the fiberglass didn't look good. I'm not an expert at fiberglass by any stretch, but you could tell that it was not solid. It needed to come out, so we cut that out. As we cut into the floor, it was amazing. The wood in the floor looked like it was brand new. And keep in mind, this is a 1972 boat, shock. So we tied in some new existing stringers that we built into the section that we had to cut out of the floor to build the transom up. We built the transom up with the Cusa board, and we were able to button up the floor, close it in. Very surprised at how well it turned out. So we pulled the console out and began to fill in a lot of holes in there and all that, and then we flipped it upside down, and then I laid more glass in it. We built it up thicker so I get about an extra 6 inches of height out of it. Much more comfortable for me to drive. So I really had done the bulk of the work to the boat. It was, in all intents and purposes, the glass work was finished. And at that point, I bought a new tank, dropped a new tank in, everything I put new in because I've experienced problems in the past with fuel with the ethanol issue. We ended up painting it with a gel coat. It turned out to be a lot of work. I knew there was a lot of sanding involved in gel coat work. I didn't realize how much. We knew we wanted to put a bracket on it, and that was another feature that we really liked. It's nice when you're out and you're swimming and you're snorkeling, you can throw your gear up. It just makes it very convenient. It's actually very convenient to stand on the back and fish off of too. Ended up going, found this motor used again on Craigslist, found a used motor, got a good deal on it. Put it on the boat, took it out, motor ran great, no issues.
Now when it came down to style and the design on the boat, Bart might have been a little bit influenced by the look of his brother's project.
I completely copied my brother on the color scheme. I mean, I saw his color and I go, you know what, that's exactly what I want. That's the general color, and so yeah, I tried to find the closest gel coat that would match the all grip. I ended up going with the tan T-top canvas and the tan cushions and bolsters. And I would have, without seeing his boat, I would have gone white. I never thought twice about that. My daughter loves the crow's nest feature, and she said, Dad, when we do a boat, can we have a crow's nest in there? And I said, absolutely. So that was really predominantly the reason that I put the crow's nest on it, was really for her and the kids. And it makes for a nice ride and get up and cruise. And then, granted, it's nice. You can spot fish so much better, birds. I was very pleased with how it turned out. It's not a boat that's built to perfection. It's a boat that's built to use, and I'm not going to worry about scratching it and dinging it up. We're going to use it. We fish primarily out of the Cedar Key, Waukesasa, Homosassa area. This fit the need for us. It's very versatile. The boat will run incredibly skinny. For a 20-foot boat, it does fairly decent in the chop. It's not something, if it's bumpy, I'm going to take off and venture 25 miles off. But if the weather's right and the forecasts are good, I have no problem taking that thing offshore. It gives us the opportunity to let my son and my daughter both run it. They both have their boater safety licenses, and we do that so that they can get out and run the boats. And I want them to be comfortable in it. I want it to be something that's part of their lives, like it has been with mine.
Now, Bart's taken on a number of projects before, and when he completed this one, it looks like this Aquasport is going to suit his current needs for he and his family on the water.
After an initial investment of $7,000 and spending $11,000 on repairs and custom modifications, the cost of Bart's Dreamboat comes to a total of $18,000. When we return, the crew at L&H Boats continues the custom build of their 33-foot Express. This segment brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly.
When you're in command of a boat with Mercury 400 horsepower Verados, you might start to feel like you're someone that fish should fear, that the water should respect, and that the world should acknowledge. Until you realize you are all those things. The new Mercury 400 horsepower Verado. Power, control, and speed in a lightweight package.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us as the crew at L&H Boats designs a custom windshield frame and helm station for the custom 33-foot Express.
We're moving along on the boat here now. A bunch of the fabrication on the deck is complete. One of the last parts of the fabrication to do now is a foundation and a molding for the windshield of the boat. This boat's going to have a solid glass, very traditional windshield. That was one of the aspects of the boat that's very important to them. It's very similar to the look the old boat had. We sat down and thought about what we needed to do. Again, once we had the input from the captain and from the people who are going to be building the windshield, we had an idea of the size and what we were going to look for an end product. We decided to build it out of an inexpensive melamine mold, and it's the way we do a lot of the simple molds here. We take a melamine, which is a Formica type plywood particle board, very inexpensive. The beauty of it is you get a fairly shiny flat surface on one side, so that's the side we put outside to get a copy of what we're trying to make fiberglass-wise. Fiberglass releases from it very easily, so again, it works very well as a mold. So you start with basically carpentry skills. You have to assemble this thing to make the shape in reverse, though, which is maybe the hardest aspect of it. You have to try to make everything backwards. Once it's done and it's all carpentry, then the glass people come in, and depending on what we're building, we build a schedule of fiberglass laminates to put on it. In the case of this piece, we know we're going to mount a windshield to the top of it, so we put a lot of extra glass on the top of it so we had some thickness to it, so we can pull some fasteners in it. We also did a high-density Akusa board inlay in there, which is a high-density foam core, another product that we use anywhere where we know we're going to put a fastener under load in it, and just beefed it up. So again, it's a very rather robust and heavy piece, something that's going to be able to support this windshield. The way the windshield ends up getting attached to the boat is it's literally screwed onto the top of it, so all the load is going to go right at this foundation level for securing it. So that part has to be made solid and attached properly. One thing they wanted to do with this boat is keep it very simple. They've got some big boats that obviously have a lot of bells and whistles to them, and that's not what they really want with this boat. So the control pod was started with the idea that we would utilize a piece out of our existing mold that we use on our 33, which is a very nice shaped control pod, and then modify that and build onto that to shape it to have a display area large enough to do displays for their electronics on that same level and that same platform. So we had to expand and almost make like a hammerhead shape design to this pod as it spilled out onto the countertop. The idea they wanted was to make sure everything could be accessible from that one location and not spread all over the boat. They were very particular about what the height of it would be. Mr. Jackson's a very tall gentleman. And then there was the aspect of the windshield as well, and how the angles of the windshield are going to affect the display areas and the headroom area. So for most of the project, we hit it on the head the first time. There was a few we went around a couple times just to make sure we got it done completely right. Well, as we finished up the construction and fabrication of the deck area now, it's time to add the teak features to the boat. The Jackson people wanted a boat, again, that was very similar to the old boat, which contained a lot of teak. The Jackson people are familiar with faux teak, and they absolutely got on board with doing any of the bright work areas, anything that was going to be finished in glossy finish to do as a faux teak to keep the maintenance on the boat down. So one of the cool things about the boat will be when it's finished is there'll be some areas that are real teak and there'll be some areas that are faux teak, and the job that we have is to try to make that seamless where it's something that it's not apparent to the normal person when they look at it, that some of the teak isn't real and some of the teak is real.
Next week on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat, Two Rivers Boatworks takes on repairing and fully customizing a 39-foot CV. George Labonte joins Dreamboat owner Angelo Genovese aboard his custom-built Conkfish 16. And Wildfire Marine continues work on the 23-foot Seacraft.